Hi, my name is Frehse. I'm Senior Managing Director and Head of Global Labor Strategy at Ankura, and I am joined today by Dr. Chris Mullen, who's the Executive Director of the Workforce Institute, and Bob Clements, who's the CEO of Axsium Group. We are missing Dave Gilbertson, who is the co-founder of No Suits, No Slides, but we are grateful for everything that he's done to contribute. So today, we're talking about returning power to the employees. And that is a philosophical story about wouldn't it be great if we did this. We're talking about the tidal wave that's actually happening whether employers like it or not. And as employers, we love to be very controlling. And it appears that the tides have turned. So I wanted to talk to both of you for the next 20-25 minutes about what are you seeing as trends? There's a million things going on, but what are the big things? Bob, would you start us off?
Yeah, I think that one of the big things that happen when we talk about employers and employees having control is around pay right now. Everybody is jumping for a new pay, new job. One way you can combat that as an employer is to give people access to wages today and give people access to wages that they earned for that previous shift.
Now, are we talking about like the Uberification of this? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can be that way, right? It's one of those things where I clock in the morning, I clock out in the afternoon, and then I can request a withdraw of the money that I earned that day.
So, yeah, they call it earned wage access, I think, and the concerns I have, which makes it seem like I'm a bad guy, right? Because no, we should hold your money, and trust me, come to me in a few weeks, son, and I'll give you your allowance. What I'm saying is that we've been set up socially as a construct where I get a big check every 2 weeks or every week, and I take chunks of that and I put it into different things. And my initial concern is, what if I spend all my money every day, and at the end of the month I don't have anything for rent?
Absolutely. It's a whole new paradigm in terms of pay and thinking about pay, and I think that's the risk that we need to think about when we think about giving earned wage access. It's one thing to be able to get my money, it's another thing to know how to manage my money. And I think you need to have a much more holistic approach rather than just simply turning on the technology and say, hey, get your wages whenever you want.
Now, are there technologies that are being developed or are developed to manage earned wage access? Do we have things that can segment my checkout for 60% rent, 20% groceries? I won't tell you the percent for the bar.
Absolutely, yeah. There's great technologies that are available that allow you to give access to your employees for the wages that they've earned. But again, it's how you go about doing that and the rules and the constructs around that. So some solutions, for example, will let you govern how much you actually can give out on that wages. Maybe you don't want to let the employee have access to 100% of those wages.
Oh, okay. So I could get a piece of it and we'd still have sort of a safety net for the end of the month, and it's just enough to get by, and it stops the advanced payday loans and all that stuff from happening. So there's a win for both sides.
Exactly. And I think that in addition to the technology constraints that you put on it, I really do think education has to be part of it, right? There's got to be some financial wellness training that goes with it as well.
Yeah, I almost think it has to come hand in hand. I mean, if you're going to flip the switch, you should be doing the development of finances. Because I know I've had weekly checks, I've done the bi-weekly, I've done the monthly, and each one, even for me, was difficult. It was to catch up. Like when I went to monthly, my mind was like blown. I was like, oh my God, it's not coming every other week. Like,
it sounds like it was going the wrong direction.
Exactly.
Right, but I mean, I couldn't even imagine getting my pay every day. And you're right, you're probably going to spend it on more of your daily necessities, let alone the monthly bills that you might have, right? I mean, it's going to go towards food and drink and whatever, but you're going to forget about your mortgage or your car payment.
Yeah.
And that's where the financial wellness, I think, has to come with either before or with the pay.
The fascinating part for me is that even the term earned wage access, I already earned the money.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you're not going to give it to me yet? And so philosophically, listen, this is a complicated story, right? They're owed the money. The problem is we've set up the social construct where we're supposed to be taking care of them as employers. And so listen, I'll let you know when you can have it, and here's your rent, and here's whatever. And that's got to change. But what both of you are saying is it has to come with some education. We can't just throw it out there. So that's a big one. Earned wage access is a big story. What else is going on? Because it seems like we're all terrified out here. So by the way, all this stuff is impacting the labor shortage, right? And so where's the competitive edge? How do I get people back to work? But not just anywhere. At my company, I want them back to work, right? And so that's one competitive advantage, earned wage access. What's something else that's going on?
I'll go with my, my wheelhouse of work life. I really feel like we have to start to talk about what's happening with our employees, not just when they come to the facility, the office, the manufacturing plant, but what's happening with them at home. Are they working so much that they're burnt out? Do they need so much money that they're working so much overtime that they don't have time for their kids, right? There is this negotiating that we're kind of doing as employees to say, okay, I need to be here. And it happened for some of us, for those who aren't frontline, for those who are remote. It even happened for me. Like, my kids were so used to me over the last year and a half being home. The minute I left on a travel trip, it was like, oh my God. Like the whole world was falling
Dave
apart.
Gilbertson said, so we spent the last 18 months bring your kids to work
Yeah.
day. He goes, I don't ever need to do that again.
No, but I remember, like, I have young kids, young daughters. I have an older son, but my younger daughters were like, Dad, you're leaving for like 3 days. Oh my gosh. Like, how do we cope?
Big change.
Because you get used to things. And so I think bringing the whole self to work, or at least having your manager understand. One of our other board members, right, you were all board members of the Workforce Institute, but we have another board member, Sarah Morgan, who talks about, which I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, during the pandemic, so many people lost their lives.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many of us who had people who lost their lives. We're not talking about the grieving process.
No.
And she says, if I had 11 people who I knew who lost their life, I'm in 11 different grieving processes. I have not heard that talked about really in the mainstream work, to say for employees, how are we helping them deal with the grieving process? And you can define it differently, right? You might have bereavement where you get 5 days off, it was an immediate family member, but we're also not defining, that's an old way of thinking as well. Before a pandemic happened, and you may have lost your mother, your friend, there's all these different constructs that we don't align with anymore.
So it's engaging them in a deeper, different way is also a strategic advantage. So it's, yes, we want to talk about work life, and you call it negotiation, not balance. That was your dissertation was on this. He's a doctor, by the way. Just ask him. No. But it's a negotiation because there's never any balance.
Right.
I've been on 145 airplanes in the last 12 months, so I'm the worst at this. And then it's better negotiation skills. But that piece of it, it's not that companies haven't done things historically. It's we're demanding better, and employees is sort of shift in power. They're saying, I've got a lot of options.
Yeah.
So I want it to work my way. I want a better shift schedule. I want to have more transparency. I want all of these things around work. And you spend a lot of time in the technology side of this, and retail is one of the places where you play in a lot of different industries. What are you seeing around this sort of work my way?
Well, you started to hit on it there, which is
I wanted to front run all this. So
just a beautiful foray, introduction for me. But it really, I think one of the big areas is about control of your schedule, when I work, where I work, what I do for work, and giving people the flexibility to work when they can. I think it acknowledges what you just talked about, which is the work-life balance side of things, which is there are times that I can pick up more work and more shifts. There's times where I'm a little bit more constrained. I need control, and that control has a real and meaningful impact on retention and employee engagement and satisfaction in their role. When they have, when you give an employee a control over their schedule, it's unlocking of life choice for them.
And if you don't have the technology, you're not allowed to have the diversity of schedules. You can't manage them. And so we've got clients where it's an aging population that still wants to work 12-hour shifts in a row with 2 days off every 14 days. Guess what? It's insane, but these are people putting their children through college for the first time in any generation. And so we have to respect it, even though you get concerned health and safety issues, right? So the problems these companies have that we work with is they've got these folks that love that and they're making it work, but they can't hire anybody in their 20s and 30s to come do it. So as these people are aging out slowly, they're not able to bring anybody in on these new systems. And so just like you both have talked about, there's a diversity of thought about what's a great shift schedule. You can't do it unless you've got the technology to manage it, but a lot of companies are just saying, we have one schedule, this is it, take it or leave it. And that's not okay anymore.
Well, that's not going to win you to employees that need flexibility.
Right.
And I recognize that, going back to our idea of social constructs, the idea of the 8-hour shift, is the way that we've built our lives, but it's just not the way that people work these days.
And that was part of the Industrial Revolution, by the way, was there was a guy out of the UK that said, you're supposed to work for 8 hours, play for 8 hours, and sleep for 8 hours, and that was it. And people refer to this guy, who is like a great leader. Labor Day is founded on this guy's work, by the way. And they say, this was a great leader about us not working too much. I said, the truth is, in his 8, 8, and 8, you never got a day off. His philosophy was you work 7 8-hour shifts, no days off, but you get to rest, which was a great benefit from the, 12-hour shifts, 7 days ago, no days off. But that was the great step forward. It wasn't like, let's get the weekends off. Okay. What else is going on?
Yeah,
I interrupted you too, so tell me.
No. Yeah, so I wanted to go back to like the shift scheduling is almost like you almost have to start to think about it as a gig economy for your own employees, right?
Great.
I mean, especially the younger generations coming out of college. I mean, we're even starting to get questions, even me, with my oldest, is do I even have to go to college? Like,
the answer is no, by the way.
Yeah,
it is.
I agree. I totally agree.
I'm going to give you $200,000 in cash, and you can go work somewhere else, invest it wisely, and you'll probably end up ahead.
Yeah, I mean, some of these things that we have to start to consider as employers, as organizations, is how do we make it great for the employee that they want to work for us? Now, you're going to have companies that are going to say, well, during the pandemic, no one left us. Well, no one was going anywhere.
Right.
Because they had jobs.
That's right.
Like, you had a job, and that's why
You're shocked.
that's why the whole return to work now, the return to work, I mean, my head will blow up. We didn't stop, it's return to office. We never stopped working.
Yeah.
In fact, we worked more, probably, right? During that time.
Very tired, Chris.
Yeah, I know you are, those flights. But, we have to start to think about, now that things are opening back up, people are seeing, hey, all these other companies are hiring because they're losing people. Maybe it's better for me to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? And it depends on how you treated those folks during the pandemic.
That's right.
Right? Just because they had a job doesn't mean you treated them well. Were you concerned about their well-being, their time off? I remember having conversations with employees to say, are you taking time away? I see that you're working a lot, right? And that's great, and we love it, but I need you to take some time for yourself. I don't need you to burn out, right? And managers, look, if you want to be selfish with this, it is a selfish thing. If you two work for me and you're at the point of burnout, the selfish thing for me to go is don't burn out, because otherwise I got to go do your work.
Yeah, and so this brings up a very important point: is you do not need to be a good person
Right, that's right.
to make these smart decisions, because it drives performance in your business. It turns out these kinds of things are not charity. We're talking about engaging a workforce to hire and retain the best talent, drive performance, and just because it also feels good to do these things, it's not charity.
No, it's not.
Secretly you're going to make a profit on this, and that's okay too. So I want to talk about the third trend. Can I bring up the third one? Okay, so for me, there's this great resignation story, like everybody's going to leave work, and you talked about like not a lot of people left work. And we had, over the last 20 years, we've had a 4% drop in labor participation. Over 20 years, that's happened very, very slowly. The sort of part, and Dave Gilbert said this is his data, I'm just stealing it from him. I can't believe I'm on tape saying I'm stealing this from him. Is in a 6-month period at the beginning of the pandemic, we lost 2 of those 4%. So we had a shock right there. But it's in very many ways overblown. We're starting to see labor stabilization as we look at the workforce activity report. We're seeing that some of these things are stabilizing. Now that back to school happened, the vaccines are rolled out fully. We're seeing the stabilization and people are coming back. So that's great. Mm-hmm. But I joked that Monster.com did a study that said that 95% of people are considering changing jobs. And I said, yeah, that's because the people that go to Monster.com are on there to find a job. So the study was very narrow with people that are looking. So congratulations, Monster.com. Microsoft did a study that said 41% of a global population they surveyed are considering not leaving the workplace, but looking at other logos, other brands that they could work for. And I think that feels right. And for me, the trend has to do with technology and transparency, because technology has been put in place. It gives us a large amount of transparency about job opportunities. We're going to have a long period of unrest. People are going to do some musical chairs. They're going to find better opportunities. They're going to ladder up and around. And it's going to be complicated. And it's going to be very disruptive. We're going to lose skills. We're going to have people coming in learning new skills. This is a problem. Do you guys see any of this stuff? Not yet, or it's coming?
No, I am seeing it, and for me, what I'm seeing is it's coming down to the flexibility.
Mhm.
If you peel that onion more, it comes down to choice, right? Is it really about flexibility? It's about you have some choice. You could actually even say it could be freedom if you drill down. Like they're a tech company, so they're like, we don't need an office space, so we're not signing any more leases. We're out. I've got another one where they were able to work from home prior to the pandemic 1 or 2 days a week, and then they all went remote during the pandemic. And then as you came out
told
of
me
it,
this
right?
one.
And then
They
as
all
you
had
come
to come back.
the company said, we don't care what before the pandemic was. Butts in seats 5 days a week, everybody. Now folks are really looking because they're like, that's not what I said. You just took away my choice. You took away my freedom.
And they were productive and they worked hard.
They've been there like 15, 20 years. They were great employees, and they're like, I'm actively getting out of here.
Yeah.
Another area I think that choice comes into play.
By the way, you're the CEO of a company and you've got a bunch of employees, so you have to deal with this. You're actually
Oh,
responsible for this.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
it's something, as a CEO, putting my CEO hat on for a minute, choice is critical. And it really is about recognizing how much has changed during the pandemic and kind of meeting an employee there. One of the things that we've done, and I've seen other employers do as a way to give choice too, is on your career path.
Yeah.
Give people control over, or give people the options. I think there's a lot of people that are frustrated and feel stuck right now. They don't feel like they're being listened to by their manager, by whoever it might be, and they get a new opportunity, so I'm going to jump ship. What opportunities do they have to stay in your business and use those skills in another way, or give them ability to train on where they could go? Making sure that people understand the options, I think, are vital so that they can roll their own path and stay inside your company.
But then, because they have the power.
They
So
have the
it's up
power.
to you as a CEO. By the way, how do I get a CEO hat back? I have one of those and I sold it.
Well, if you sell it,
Yeah, exactly. It's
somebody else is wearing the hat.
I love Ankura, so I just, yes. So we're talking about 3 trends. I think on all of these, though, they all drive labor participation.
Mhm.
So I think that's an important point in the negotiation, and the negotiation is not black or white.
Nope. It's not. It really has to do with meeting an employee where they are. I constantly hear about, well, these younger generations, they jump jobs every 2 to 3 years. Well, I would also contend that we're not giving them a development, right? If you want them to stay, I mean, they're not staying like the older generations for a pension, right? They're not going, and those folks aren't going anywhere because they're that far along in their pension. The younger generations are about, the reason they're jumping ship, I think, a lot is for the learning and development. Now, some do want to be CEO in 6 months. I mean,
Yes,
it's just
there's
not-
some of that. We all have our weak parts of our
Yeah, that's right.
population.
But like, I think they aspire to be that. And so if they saw a career path to grow into a manager or a leader, or at least get that education, they would stay with us long.
This is a highly political topic, but the same people that are capitalism, freedom, this is a free country, are the same people that say, kids these days. And those kids are using their own freedom to make decisions. They're being paid well. They're very well educated. It's the highest education of any generation we've ever had. And we tell them that it's a free country, but you better do it my way.
Mhm.
And that's not okay. It's totally hypocritical.
Well, I think that's
I
why
can't wait for the comments on YouTube, by the way, because I get torched on this stuff all the time. But you're either free or you're not.
Well, I
So-
think that's why we're in the situation we're in, where our employees are getting more of the power back.
Yep.
It's a shift,
It is.
and we have to work. We have to deal with it. We have to be intentional about how we want to work with that.
But is that a bad thing that they're getting the power back?
I don't think it's a bad thing.
I
I
want
think
to
it's
wrap it up with this. So I want you to, in conclusion, is this a good or bad thing, and what does it look like in the future?
So ultimately, I think it's a good thing. I think it's hard for employers that are thinking about the way things were, and we've got, as employers, we need to shift our mindset and start meeting employees as where they are. And it could be some of the flexibility things that we talked about today, whether it's pay or schedule or work life or career path or going to the office or not. But it's understanding what your employees care about and delivering on.
And that's not coddling, that's culture, and it's real engagement, right? So it's
100%.
easy to be intellectually lazy and say, we're coddling these people. These are passionate people that want to work really hard, most of them, right? There's always a few, right? But so what about you?
I'm with Bob on this one. I do not think it's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing because it allows all of us to choose. It allows the employees to choose and do something different and maybe meet all the potential they want, and it allows businesses and corporations to do the same. I really just think we're like an app. We're just evolving, right? We're just updating.
Yeah.
Companies are constantly evolving, and so are employees, and that's where we need to be able to meet in the middle, because it is engagement, it is dialogue.
That's right. So there's a couple things for me. One is the work how you want, when you want piece is really difficult in places like process manufacturing, but it's not impossible, and it's possible in so many places where we're not doing that now, and people are demanding it. That's number one. Earned wage access freaks me out. Philosophically, it's the right thing to do. I get it, but I'm also concerned because what about money management? What about blowing through all your cash every day and not having that left over? And then the job movement piece, for me, is really exciting and really disruptive. I have been, for the last 25 years, working with hourly employees all over the world, the hardest working people in the world. And you know what? They don't know that there's better opportunities available for them. If they move from, Eastern North Carolina to Minneapolis, they can get $12 an hour more than they're making right now. Better education for their kids. Yes, it's cold. They're going to survive. It's okay. But these are the things that they need to know.